What's going on, guys? My name is Noah. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm really glad you guys are here. Today we are going to answer a question that I often get and that I often contemplate and have really thought over the years, being someone who's dealt with depression, anxiety, relapse as an alcoholic who struggles with drinking, among other life situations, right? And this question revolves around motivation. So Don Shackelford left a question with 23 votes on a video recently where I asked you guys to give me feedback. What do you want to hear about? What questions do you want me to answer? Don says, motivating yourself to do activities of daily living through depression and anxiety. I struggle continually with this. Now, another question was from John Doe. And it said, talk about motivation. I have the hardest time motivating myself to do much of anything right now. This is actually a topic I feel fairly passionate about because as someone who suffered through a major clinical breakdown in 2011 and then struggled to find any semblance of stability or improvement or recovery with my depressive symptoms, with my anxiety, suicidal ideations, depersonalization, derealization, on and on and on, really tough stuff when it comes to navigating the world. I had no motivation, and I had no idea if I would ever regain motivation. And not only that, but I hadn't really developed yet personally to a space where I understood some of the key fundamentals to motivation. What I will say on a broad stroke, right, from a macro view in my experience, motivation has proven to be something that I cannot rely upon so much as I can build upon momentum. And momentum can seem like motivation when I'm able to create habits and rituals that slowly serve a greater purpose that I have, a greater ideal, a greater goal. So when it comes to how do you motivate yourself, you schedule that motivation and you get used to doing the things that lead to the self-esteem or the end game that you may or may not be pursuing. So let me try to make this a little more concise and clear. For me, this is what that looked like. Guys, today's video is being brought to you by Let's Get Checked. I have not been shy on this channel about the fact that I had extremely low testosterone, and treating that low testosterone has saved my life. So when we talk about things like motivation and apathy and inspiration and drive and dealing with depression and anxiety, it is very appropriate to find out if you may have a vitamin D deficiency or a testosterone deficiency or a hormonal imbalance, something that can help give you guidance and instruction as to what you should do next. Companies like Let's Get Checked allows that to happen discreetly from the comfort of your own home. I get it. A lot of us, particularly amidst COVID, don't want to go out, and some people just don't like being in front of people or dealing with big blood draws. Let's Get Checked will allow you to have their lab sent to you in a box via something simple like a little finger prick. You'll do it before 9 a.m. You will send it back in. They will process your results. A physician will actually review them, and a nurse will call you to go over and just give you some guidance and help you understand them. This is an incredibly useful thing, so please consider using it. I use it, my dad uses it, so make sure that what's going on isn't something that you can easily correct with the right information. Use discount code NOAH20. I'll put a link in the description to the hormone panel and the testosterone check, but please view their labs and see what might be more appropriate for you or what you might want to tack on. Discount code NOAH20 to get 20% off your entire order. Help support the channel and help support your life. All right, guys, back to the video. I knew I wanted to, for example, I knew as someone when I was depressed, let's go there first. When I was deeply depressed, when I was horribly anxious, and when I was barely hanging on, the first thing I had to do was I had to scale back expectations, and I had to meet myself where I was. So maybe I couldn't be motivated when I was depressed to pursue a career goal or deep dive education or be particularly active. Maybe that was too much, but maybe I could give myself permission to simply shower that day. And that could be enough. I knew that every day I would get up and I would shower. And that's self-care, and that's hygiene, and that is some semblance of wanting to move on, wanting to continue moving forward. I didn't have to want to shower, I didn't have to like to shower, but I had to build like what you might describe as a toothbrush habit around showering, and or you could say brushing my teeth. I got used to doing those things. So it's in the same respect, I had a depression support group. I didn't want to go. I didn't think it would work. I didn't think it would make any difference. However, I was encouraged to do so, and I got used to doing it. Pretty soon, taking my shower, even though I would have rather just lay in bed and do nothing, brushing my teeth at night, even though I didn't care if I got a cavity, I didn't care about anything, going to my depression support group, they slowly became habitual and ritualistic, and they compounded on one another in a way that, one, was slowly eliciting a positive response, at least in survival, at least in negative happiness. And if you don't know what that is, that's just when you're so down and so out that you can't even imagine feeling happy or normal, but you can feel less shitty. It was working because I got used to doing those things, and it allowed me to slowly, however slowly I needed to, build credibility within myself to then just do the next thing. Maybe that was going for a walk. Maybe that was not binge eating at 3 a.m. Add in whatever applies to you. Now, I hope that made sense, and if it didn't, perhaps this will. When it comes to, let's say you're in a phase where you're doing better, but you feel like motivation is fleeting, and you feel like your excitement and your enthusiasm is waning, and your willpower is dwindling, then it sort of applies, the same thing I just said applies here. So a lot of people reach out to me, they're like, I want to lose weight. It's also one of those things that I don't believe willpower is particularly useful. I don't think motivation is particularly dependable because life changes and things go good and things go bad and there are ups and downs. So much like the first topic I was bringing about where we're talking about micro actions you can take, the same thing applies for whatever goal that you might be wanting to achieve. In that you just have to build habits and rituals that become so commonplace that before you know it, you're just morphing into this person that you wanted to become, or you're accomplishing that goal that you were hoping to succeed at. From a fitness perspective, one could say that if you want to get in shape, the first thing you have to do is drink water, plenty of water. So what do? You make that your goal and you leave it at that for a while. You take small steps for that overall transformation. So that could look like waking up every day, you know you're going to chug 2 glasses of water, room temperature, whatever it takes, you're getting it done. Do that for 3 or 4 weeks. Adjust expectations, let them meet reality. You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly be this person you want to be. This applies to me. This applies to everybody, in my opinion, if you want sustainable change. Next thing could be you're going to track your food for 2 or 3 weeks. But that's all you're going to do. You're not going to monitor what you're going to eat, for example, but you're going to drink that water, right? Your 2 glasses every morning when you wake up, and you're going to track your food. Now you spent 6 weeks, let's say in this example, doing those 2 actions. Positive actions that are proven to give you positive results. And now you're used to them, just like showering, just like eating, just like whatever. They're just part of who you are. After that, and I think you can see how this example is going, you're going to go for a 10-minute jog 3 times a week. This might sound overly simplistic, and that might not sound like life-changing stuff, but it is. It is over time. These sort of things compound on one another, not just in how they impact you physically, let's say, but certainly how they impact you mentally and the results that can happen when you are consistent with anything. One of the biggest mistakes I have fallen into is trying to wake up one day and be this completely different person, as I previously mentioned. It's just not likely. It's never been particularly helpful for me. I have to slowly change. And the reason I feel that this is such a useful thing is because it can sort of just happen without you really having to put too much work or thought into it. You don't think much about brushing your teeth anymore, I would imagine. You don't think much anymore about eating breakfast. And granted, there are extreme examples of depression where you're not trying to eat, and I get that as well. But things that are second nature are easy to do. And if you can just make the things that will lead to the you or the thing or the it or the whatever that is impactful and meaningful to you, then it'll just happen on its own. It'll just happen on its own. So that is my biggest thing about motivation. And there are setbacks. And I think sometimes we lose sight of what we're actually going for. And that's a whole nother thing we could talk about is, do you even know why you want to do something? I think knowing your why is important. And I think writing out your why can be equally as important, because I think saying like, oh, I want to be trim. Oh, I want to work out. Oh, I want to go back to school. But then leaving it at that, I've gotten like this little endorphin rush just talking about the things I want to do. But if I don't actually implicitly write down or conceptualize the reasons for doing these things, I have sloth in me. I have gluttony in me. I lose sight of it. I forget why I cared, and I fall back into familiar habits. Whether they're hurting me or not, they're familiar. So I need that why. And I need small, tangible, realistic steps to get there. And I need to forgive myself and give myself permission to go at the pace I want to go, which really plays into those of us that struggle with depression and anxiety, or with alcoholism or drug addiction or food addiction or gambling or whatever. Is you have to meet yourself where you're at. And you have to also, geez, now I'm just freestyling I'm really just speaking out loud and processing with you, but there's something also to be said about what really needs to come first. What's truly occupying more of your intentions, your time, your energy, your being. So if I'm going to turn this on me, which I always try to do, when I'm in a drinking mode, as an alcoholic, when I'm in a drinking mode, that occupies so much energy and so much thought and time and money and just effort. It occupies so much of my life that it's not realistic for me to set other big goals, because that needs to come first. And maybe you know what that is for you. Maybe you know what that is for you. So maybe the goal you think you're trying to get, or the motivation you can't seem to find, is simply not available to you because it is being occupied by something far more powerful. And only you would know what that might be. But that's another angle that I think we all need to look at. And I'll say that sometimes when I'm in a spiral, let's say, or I'm in a repetitive loop of drinking behavior and putting off my potential, putting off my better self, stifling that inner voice that struggles to be free, I recognize it. And if I'm not ready to address that, I don't set those bigger goals. I might continue to learn and read and try, let's say, to navigate the urge or the sometimes it feels like the luck to take action, but I keep it real with myself to the best of my ability. And the last thing I'll say about depression is sometimes surviving is just enough. And I mean that. Time takes time. So as we do try to find ways to just get by and adjust expectations to what success would mean in terms of accomplishing goals when you're depressed and anxious, please be gentle with yourself. Be fucking nice to yourself. If you're deeply depressed, if you're horribly anxious, if you're horribly apathetic, insert any whatever, bipolar, you name it, sometimes surviving is enough. Okay? Sometimes surviving really is enough. Things can and will get better, assuming you don't give up. That has been my motto. I'm still here. You wouldn't believe what I've come from. I've come from something so bad and so unthinkably dark that I never would have imagined in a million years I'd be sitting here with you guys in a pink shirt, bouncing my titties, talking about this stuff with relative clarity of mind and a relatively stable mood. Anyway, that is question number 3 of the 10-part series. Thank you to the 2 gentlemen that dropped those questions. I appreciate you guys so much. Share in the comments below. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? Do you have your own thoughts and feelings on this? Do you have some personal experiences, some anecdotal stuff that you want to share that could be useful to me or to anybody else? This definitely is a community. This certainly is a conversation. These are just my thoughts and opinions, and I definitely want to hear yours. We'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.